When you used to put on fundraising events like that, what did that return on investment typically look like? I'm sure it varied, but did you have a general target?
So and I guess we were able to put on such a big event and a high profile event because in our world we had underwriting for that, and that's probably the toughest support or giving to get is someone who's willing to. It's not super glamorous to say, I'm going to cover the cost to bring in that entertainer, and I'm going to cover the cost for the meal and the venue and the flowers and all of those things. And we were lucky to have a couple of individuals and who were dedicated to variety and have been dedicated to variety and were willing to invest. They also gave to our programs, but they realized the benefit of having a high-profile event that attracted a lot of the folks who had the capacity to give. And it was something, with all the charities that are out there and the organizations that are out there, it was a way to separate us and differentiate us. And so if you're trying to get all those big donors to come to an event, and they can come to an event every night of the week if they wanted to, and every weekend for sure, you wanted yours to be the one. And our donors realized that. So the P&L on an event like that, ours was a little bit skewed because we didn't, all of the money that we raised, and over the course of these two events, we would probably raise $2 million. And that was all free and clear of any costs. So because we had the event cost underwritten. So, and that's actually, it's good they asked that question because once we stopped doing that, we had the conversation with those donors to say, we'd rather just give our money. Now that we went on a journey with them to say, we'd rather just give our dollars to the organization, to the program, and we don't want to underwrite anymore. Once we were clear of, well, I guess, quote unquote, clear, in the post-COVID new reality, we decided not to go back to those events because of the time and energy they took. It almost wouldn't pencil out, to have a big event like that. So we had to rethink, is the investment of time and energy and dollars worth the return? Can you raise 30% more, and have a profit margin of 30 or 40 or 50% on an event like that, with the costs, to rent a venue, to bring in an artist, to have those meals and do all those things. And so we decided not to. But it's a consideration for sure.
And when you decided not to, what was the ultimate strategy that you're employing today?
Yeah, and so part of it was that's where we needed to be. It's also COVID changed the donors' willingness. They got used to going. They were used to going to these events all the time, and then COVID hit, and I think a lot of donors really liked not having to go to these things anymore. And so we heard post-COVID, after a couple of years of not having them, from donors who said, we're not interested. If you have it, we're probably not going to come back. Or if our company normally gets a table or our foundation gets a table, we're having trouble filling them. And so we don't want to do that anymore. We'd like to engage with you differently. And I think for us at Variety, one of the key learnings that we had when this happened, we certainly had our core donors who were with us no matter what. And so when they realized that we weren't going to have our big fundraisers, they said, you can still count on us. We're still giving you the support. We'll give you maybe a little bit extra support because we know it's a challenging environment. But we learned that we had a lot of folks who it was transactional. They would come to this event. They would give a $5,000 or a $10,000 gift, which, in our world, that's a material gift. And if someone's giving you $5,000 or $10,000 or $15,000 or $20,000, you think, man, they are missionized. They are with us. They believe in what we're doing. And when the events were canceled and we called those folks up, we found out that it was more transactional. They're like, well, you're not going to have the event, so we're going to send our money somewhere else, or we're not really. We loved going there, and when we go, we'll give, but if we're not going, we're not going to give. And so that caused us to reflect a little bit and say, well, is this the best way to connect with these donors and for them to understand the mission and understand what we're doing for these kids? And is there maybe a better way that we can missionize someone by realizing the impact that a power wheelchair or that braces or a communication device or speech therapy or physical therapy or getting to go to a week at camp is having, and how transformational that is we got to connect with these donors differently. So we started the last couple of years to do an event, one where we brought in a celebrity or a performer who had a disability. So we, for the last 2 years, brought in someone who, Mandy Harvey was last year, and Mandy was someone who gained some fame on America's Got Talent. She was a Golden Buzzer winner. She went profoundly deaf while she was in college on a scholarship for performing arts for vocal.
Wow.
And she became hearing impaired and lost her hearing, and for a couple of years never sang again, and then found out that, you know what, I'm going to try this. I'm going to try and figure out, I don't want to lose my voice. I think I still can do this. And so she started to perform and sing again and trust her voice. And she has this unbelievable singing voice, and she figured out how to do that and overcome that. And so Mandy came and performed with us, and then performed with our kids. Our chorus and dance performed with her, and that was the show. We also had Ali Stroker the year before. Ali's a Broadway star who won a Tony Award, and she uses a wheelchair. She was the first person who uses a wheelchair to win a Tony Award. So we thought, let's connect these dots a little bit more and showcase what these kids can do if given the chance. And so the program turned from having a high-profile A-list celebrity come in to having someone who's been successful, but also then is proof of what happens when you give these kids an opportunity. So we called it Variety Unbound was the event. And that was a different way to connect and missionize. But I think what we're ultimately going to do in the long term is really have more intimate opportunities for the families and the kids to connect with the donors. So when you hear parents tell the stories about the impact and the change that has happened, that's much more impactful than putting on a dinner, or putting on a show or a performance. So having testimonials from parents where you could gather 50 or 100 potential donors, that's going to be probably the future of being able to share and let them connect with the kids and the mission.